Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Wolverine 41. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into talking about this book. This book is co-written by Victor Lavalle and Benjamin Percy, with art by Jeff Shaw and Corey Smith, inks by Jeff Shaw and Oren Jr., colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by Corey Petit. We'll also see plenty of covers, but the main cover is by Laniel Francis Yu and Romulo Fajardo Jr. Wow, we are about to enter probably one of the craziest Wolverine events we've seen in a little while, the Sabretooth War. So let's read the synopsis and we'll get into the review. Sabretooth War begins here, the most violent Wolverine story ever told. Get ready for the showdown to end all showdowns. Wolverine versus Sabretooth. It's been years since these heavy hitters have crossed paths in the Marvel Universe, but as Krakoa falls, so Sabretooth rises, and he is out for revenge. They threw Victor Creed in the pit, but he is now free and wielding an army of Sabretooths. He will prove once and for all why he's Logan's ultimate nemesis. Co-written by literally powerhouses Benjamin Percy and Victor Lavalle, and drawn by the Dynamos Corey Smith and Jeff Shaw. Don't miss the inaugural issue in this multi-shipping saga leading up to the landmark issue number 50. We'll talk about that last part after the review. But yeah, here we are. So a little bit of context for the book. Lavalle had been doing a lot of the Sabretooth stories coming up to this, a couple of miniseries. Obviously, Benjamin Percy's been handling Wolverine for a long time now. So coming together, these two writers are bringing us this amazing story. I've really been into the Wolverine book for the Wolverine book feels like it's the most disconnected to the Krakoan era, even though all the events in the other books affect the Wolverine's book. They really don't have that much direct impact up until a little bit more recently. So that really kind of drew me really back in. But this story was insane. I really like Wolverine versus Logan as a trope in comics. I think it's probably one of the best rivalries we can see. There's a lot of context that you might need to get into this book, but the book very smartly clues you in as to what's Wolverine been up to, what Sabretooth been up to. So this issue is actually a pretty great primer to catch up on both of their stories in a very succinct and efficient way. Percy and Lavalle are very good at bringing you up to speed and everything you need to know for the story going forward. But if you don't know anything at all, just know that Sabretooth hates Wolverine, and the rest will kind of just follow. The rest is really the set dressing for this outstanding event. So let's take a look at some of the preview art here. As I mentioned, some of the bloodiest, some of the most horrific, some of the most gruesome art you can see here. You see Sabretooth being stalked by Wolverine, and then of course Sabretooth's ripped open a Cyclops' face. Now we eventually do find out this is not the main Cyclops. This isn't even Wolverine. This is all training, because Sabretooth has gathered Sabretooths from all different kinds of Earths and brought them together to complete his mission. But yeah, I love this art. It gets really down and gritty. Both Jeff Shaw and Corey Smith are very good at these sort of things where they just really dig down and give you something that can be really bloody. Which a lot of that stuff also attributed to Alex Sinclair's amazing colors, just finding the right shade of red. And then yeah, it is really crazy to see to see Sabretooth, not only with many Sabretooths from different universes, but also piloting this ship, leading a squad, and then things just kind of escalate from there. You get to catch up with Logan, you get to catch up with a little bit of the X-Force. The book does tell you exactly all these events happen before the current fall of the House of X and Rise of Powers of 10. So if you're reading all that stuff, all this will kind of fit into the story neatly. I'm glad that the editors have taken the time to explain a little bit of this, because sometimes all those little questions in the back of your head really kind of put a little damper on the book. But this was a great way to kick off. Uh, and you won't really believe what happens in that last page. I was left aghast. So really interesting to see how the internet reacts to this, how people that have been reading this series kind of react to this. And then the coolest part is that you get to the last page and you see the preview for the next issue. And I didn't know that this was going to be not only is it a 10-part event leading up to Wolverine 50, up until we looked at the synopsis, but also the book will be shipping twice a month. So you don't have to wait too long to get the next part. I think that's why we have multiple artists, we have multiple writers. They are able to kind of tackle this as a team, which is a really cool to see. It's really cool to see in a collaborative medium like comics, how insane this is going to be. And like I mentioned, probably the most violent, disgusting Wolverine book you've ever seen. Really cool covers at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. So if you have read this, let me know what you thought about it. I'll try to make sure that we keep up on this, every other week, and just do a full review for these issues, because I'm very interested. I did a full review for every issue of the previous arc, so I think we could do this as well. Hopefully, we find the time, but I think this has really moved to the top of my pile, very close to the top of my pile for the Marvel books, because I'm really invested in this story going forward. So, hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a preview for Rise of the Powers of X #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book will be written by Kieran Gillen, with art by R.B. Silva, colors by David Curiel, letters by Clayton Cowell. In this book, the fight for Krakoa has been lost. 10 years ago, the mutants returned from their exile and to try to claim the Earth, but the forces of Orcus, and they failed. Now, within the victorious Orcus, with their gauntlet choking the world, Nimrod and Omega Sentinel put their plan within a plan into action. They are to summon their binary god and consume everything in their ascension. All that stands between them is the X-Men. What can they do? They're the X-Men. They'll find a way. That's their superpower. So begins a story beyond time and space, with the rise of powers beyond our pretty human intelligence. From the amazing writer Kieran Gillen and R.B. Silva comes half of the story that will bring the Krakoan Age to its conclusion. That was quite a mouthful, but let's talk about what that could mean a little bit. So we know that we have another book, right? The Fall of the House of X, and now this is the Rise of Powers of 10. So very excited to know what that means and how those two books fit together. The first time around, this book, the secondary book, was the one that showed us in different multiples of 10 how the timeline would play out until pretty much the end of the world, for the X-Men and the mutants and everything that started from Krakoa. So I'm very excited to see, especially because of the cover. These are all brand new, different characters. Other than Wolverine, these all look like amalgamations of different characters, right? We have a Shadow Cat that also looks like maybe a mixture with Apocalypse. We have what I feel looks like Hope with a mixture of Captain Krakoa. We also have somebody wearing an Iron Man suit. I believe this is Sync in the chair. So I don't know what any of that means, but I do know that I trust Kieran Gillen to tell us a fantastic story. I also know that R.B. Silva is a fantastic artist. So I am just truly, I can't wait to read this book. I might just go ahead and have to buy it digitally when it comes out in the morning, just to make sure I get to read it and avoid any X spoilers on the internet. So very excited for this. Let's take a look at some of the preview art. With these books, we actually got plenty of art this time around. Normally, the X line is a little bit more conservative when it comes to giving some pages, but as you can see here, we just see Nimrod and the Omega Sentinel just being menaces all over the world, apparently. It looks like we have Emma Frost, maybe. It looks like we are in a desolate, apocalyptic landscape. The remnants of Krakoa, maybe. Here we see Mystique as well, and a bunch of the X-Men. I feel like that's Namor, that's Fallen, and Gambit. So very, very interesting stuff. You know, after everything that Karen Gillan's done with the Immortal X-Men and also with Judgment Day and the Eternals, I'm very excited to see how his part of the story plays out for the end of the world, or the end of this world, at least the world of Krakoa. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Ultimate Spider-Man #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's take a look at the creative team before we get into talking about this book. This book is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Marco Cicchetto, colors by Matthew Wilson, letters by Corey Petit. As you can see, there's plenty of cover artists here, so we'll look at those at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. So this is the first book in the relaunch of the Ultimate Universe over at Marvel. This is a different Ultimate Universe than you may be used to. If you haven't read Ultimate Invasion, make sure to go check that out. There's also an Ultimate one-shot that you want to read before this. But overall, this is a whole new Spider-Man that you can get into, and you can really figure out what's going to make this one very different. So let me give you a quick synopsis before we look at some preview art. The new Ultimate Spider-Man for a new Ultimate Universe. Revolutionary writer Jonathan Hickman and acclaimed artist Marco Cicchetto bring you a bold new take on Spider-Man with the debut title of the Ultimate line of new Ultimate Comics. After the events of Ultimate Invasion, the world needs a hero. Who will rise up and take that responsibility? Prepare to be entangled in a web of mystery and excitement as the all-new Ultimate Spider-Man comic book redefines the wall crawler for the 21st century. So very similar to the first time that the Ultimate line was launched. Marvel wants to make books accessible. Marvel wants to make these heroes a little bit different than their 616 counterparts. And I think that this is a great place to start. Spider-Man is I would say one of the most iconic Marvel heroes that kind of stands alone, right? I know there's other heroes like Wolverine, but he's a big part of the X-Men. So yeah, Marvel has picked 3 different titles, Ultimate Spider-Man being the first. We also will get Ultimate Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men. So very excited to get into those later on this month. But I don't think they could have picked a better artist. I just finished reading Marco Cicchetto and Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, and I am so ready to dive deep into this. From the covers, we know that this is a brand new Peter Parker. So let's take a look at some of the preview art. We'll talk a little bit more about what we expect from the story. As you can see, this Peter Parker is a little bit older. He has a family. He's got the kids, which I think will be a very interesting aspect and change to Spider-Man. I feel like for a long, long time, Marvel has denied Peter a family, and I think that they want to correct that with this specific issue. So I'm very excited for that. And of course, we have, we get to see all of his family. So interestingly enough, in the preview pages, we don't see Spider-Man in a Spider-Man suit. We don't even know what the origin of his powers, all that stuff we don't know in this preview. So once I get to read this book, I'll definitely follow up, make a little short video, or we'll talk about it on our live stream, whatever the case may be. But I'm very excited. I never read the Ultimate line when it was back in the early aughts. So I feel like this is my chance to really get in on this ground floor. And also, if you've been looking for a reason to read Marvel books, but don't want to get caught up in all the continuity, this is also a great place for you to start. And who better than Jonathan Hickman, who I feel is going to do something different than the normal stuff that he's been doing. He's a great world builder and a big fan of just putting all these mysteries together. But I feel like Spider-Man is a more straightforward superhero. I'm I'm also very excited to see what kind of baddies Spider-Man's going to have to face off. And then in the larger scheme of things, how the Maker and everything that we've experienced in Ultimate Invasion is going to come into play for this. So, there. Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Giant Size Spider-Man #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. So let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. This book will be written by Cody Ziegler with art by Ivan Coelho, Guru effects and colors, and letters by Joe Caramagna, and a bunch of cover artists that we'll see some at the end of the video. Brian Hitch on the main cover, as you would always expect from a great giant-sized book. So this is a Miles Morales book, which I love. I love that we're getting a giant-size book for Miles, and the inclusion of Venom, I think it's really cool. So let's see what this book is going to be all about. Spider-Man versus Venom. Dylan Brock, a.k.a. Venom. Spider-Man versus Venom. Dylan Brock, aka Venom, has a bone or a brain to pick with Miles Morales. With Miles Morales Spider-Man scribe Cody Ziegler teaming up with Ivan Coelho, and with a cover by legendary Brian Hitch. This giant-sized Spidey story, this is one that can't be missed. And this is just the first of more exciting giant-sized one-shots featuring your favorite characters releasing through the first half of this year. It also includes a reprinting of Ultimate Comics Spider-Man number 22, which is Spidey's Legends, Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pichelli, featuring the epic conclusion of Miles' first battle with Ultimate Venom. So this is very exciting. I didn't know that Marvel was going to do all these giant size. It looks like it is. They're celebrating a 50th anniversary of the giant size brand, which makes a lot of sense. If you're looking for an excuse to write a bunch of one shots, I couldn't see a better way to do that. And what a way to kick it off than giving us a Miles Morales story, a Venom story, and of course the reprint of the Ultimate Comics for Spider-Man, which is their first confrontation. Very interesting. As I mentioned in the other preview, if you caught the preview for the Ultimate Spider-Man, I was not a reader of the Ultimate Comics. So this will be really interesting to kind of get that. I might go back and just read the full arc. But let's talk about this one. Let's take a look at the preview art. Ivan Coelho is a fantastic artist. I just really like the way he captures movement, the way he does some of his paneling and the motion in these characters. And of course, when it comes to giving us just a bombastic action scene, look at this. I love this page of Venom just coming out of the rubble, punching somebody straight in the face, and the reaction that Miles reacts to that because he knows that things are happening. So this will be very cool to read. I can't wait to pick this up. So hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a preview for Star Wars number 42. Now, normally I don't do previews for the Star Wars series because it is an ongoing series, but this is the beginning of a new arc. The Dark Droids arc is over across pretty much the whole line. So we are now at a new place. So let's take a look at the creative team before we get into this book. The Sith and the Skywalker is written by Charles Soule, with our pencils by Steve Cummings, inks by Wayne Foucher and Jonas Trinidad, colors by Rachelle Rosenberg, letters by Clint Cowles, and as you can see, plenty of fantastic variant covers that you'll see at the end of the video. So in this issue, Sith Rising, Luke Skywalker knows his destiny is leading him toward a confrontation with Darth Vader, but Vader is a Dark Lord of the Sith, and Luke is barely even a Jedi. To have any chance of survival, he must find a way to train himself in the battle techniques he will soon face. He must find another Sith. So this current iteration of the Star Wars series takes place between, I believe it takes place between movies 2 and 3, or I guess episodes 6 and 7. So this is all before Return of the Jedi. The first iteration of the series took place between episode 4 and 5. So here we are. Luke like I said, I'm a little behind. I haven't finished Dark Droids, but I felt confident enough to just kind of do a preview for this because, first of all, it is a different arc, different story, and I think I've always really enjoyed how Charles Soule does Star Wars books. So I'm very excited to see what he does here, specifically when dealing with the Sith. I think Charles Soule just he really understands them. Charles Soule, Charles Soule and Greg Pak, both of them just have a really great adaptations of these stories. They have a really cool understanding of the Star Wars universe, of what I think people find endearing and or find cool about the Sith and the Jedi, and of course all these other characters. So, but let's take a look at some of the preview art. I'm not too familiar with Steve Cummings, but just from these few pages, I think his art looks very dynamic. It looks like we're gonna get a really crazy story just from like how Luke kind of just falls into this black hole, or falls out of this hole into this palace. And then you see here as he gets into this palace, a bunch of red lightsabers. As soon as Luke lights up his, he knows that he's going to be in trouble. So as of this point, Luke has not recovered his other lightsaber, so he's using this orange yellow one that you can kind of read a little bit further back in the series to figure out how he got that. So I'm pretty excited about a new arc. I'm pretty excited about discovering a new Sith. And then, of course, Marvel's been doing some really cool variant covers for the Star Wars series. So if you have read this, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.